Average Woodsman here, back with another video. So today I wanted to go over some of my favorite bushcraft knives. I kind of want to preface this that I already have a video on bushcraft for survival knives, so if you're interested in that topic, I have a full video on it, because I'm sure I'm going to get some questions about that. What's the differences? What constitutes a bushcraft knife versus a survival knife? I already have a video on that. Any of these knives could be used in a survival situation if you absolutely had to, but these are really geared more toward bushcraft. They're fixed blade knives, and these ones are actually full tang. These four, this one being the only one that's not full tang. Since this is a heavy duty companion, it is plenty robust enough to do heavy tasks with if you absolutely had to. But like I said, these four are all full tang, so that's going to make them, technically speaking, far more durable than something like a rat tail tang or a partial tail tang knife like this Mora. But these all get carried by me on a regular basis. Some of them, like the Mora, I generally don't carry on my hip. I tend to carry it more in my backpack as kind of like a backup knife or a carving knife a lot of times when I'm carrying other blades on me. But yeah, let's go ahead and get into it. I'm actually going to go right to left. So the first knife is from Battle Horse Knives. It is an 01 tool steel. This one is a scandi grind, full tang. This one is, I believe, 5/32, so it's a little bit thicker than most other bushcraft knives in general, and ones that I own. It has a sharp 9-degree spine, really comfortable micarta handle scales. One theme that you're going to see through these 5 knives is that I really like high carbon steel. I really like a scandi grind, and I really like it to have a 9-degree spine on the knife. That's just what I personally prefer. I want to say this one's about 4 1/4, maybe a little bit more than that in blade length. And I actually took this knife when I was up in northern Alabama to the Randall's Adventure and Training, so ESSE, their training facility up there. I did their field survival course, and in that course they have a very specific gear list you're allowed to carry of items. You can only have a belt knife, a ferro rod, a water bottle, and a compass. And this is the knife that I chose to take with me, so this was my only cutting tool. Just to put it in perspective of how good of a knife this is, this was the knife that I chose, and this is the knife that I did the class with. This knife right here, this is an LT Wright. This one is, I believe, also an 01 tool steel. Same thing, 90-degree spine with a Scandinavian grind. This one's a little bit shorter. It's similar, I believe this one's also 5/32, but it has a little bit shorter of a blade. This one's around 4 inches. A really thick handle, which makes it extremely comfortable for a lot of carving. If you're going to be doing like a lot of carving tasks, notching, feather sticks, maybe making tri-sticks, whatever you're doing out in the field, bushcraft tasks, you want to be able to choke up real high on the knife, and you want to have a handle that's extremely comfortable. And that's another thing with these knives. These all have really comfortable, rounded handles so that you don't get any hot spots, because if you're doing a lot of carving, which you generally do in bushcraft, you're using this knife a lot, you don't want to have any hot spots, and you want the knife to be extremely comfortable while you're using it for long periods of time. This one is also made by LT Wright. This is the boat tail. This is, I believe, the only one that's not a high carbon steel. This one is actually an A2 tool steel, which is also a tool steel, but it's not a high carbon tool steel. So the reason why I like high carbon steel knives, generally speaking, is because they're easier to maintain, especially out in the field. So if something happens to your edge, it gets rolled or it chips, it's easier to repair that edge quickly in the field. And it's also easier to bring this back to hair popping sharp with just hitting it over, just running this over a strop. It'll go back to hair popping sharp. Also, I like a good high carbon steel knife because in an emergency, if I had to, I could always use the hard spine on the knife to throw sparks from something like a piece of port or chert or flint and into char cloth or some sort of charred material like some punky wood, and now I'm able to use that in my tender bundle to blow out the flames to create fire. So it makes the knife more multifunctional. Now this knife being an A2, it doesn't really throw sparks all that well from the spine because it's not really, the carbon contents in the knife is not really high enough. It will throw sparks, but not as many as something like an 01 or a 1095. But this is a Puko style knife, super comfortable. It has a longer handle than the actual blade itself. This has a very short blade. I think it's like around 3 1/4, something like that. And it's an 1/8 of an inch thick. Super duper comfortable. One of my favorite bushcraft knives that I own. This Mora, this is the HD companion. This one's also in a high carbon steel. The only one that's not a full tang out of all these knives. It has a 90-degree spine that I put on it myself. This knife does not come from the factory with a 90-degree spine on it. So you're gonna have to hit this with something like a file, or if you have a work sharp like I do, I just hit the back of this knife with my work sharp. Nice 90-degree spine on it now, but super comfortable, great for bushcraft. And this is heavy duty enough and strong enough of a knife to be your belt knife if you want to do that. And the reason why I'm mentioning that is because these 3 knives right here are all over $200. These 2 knives are far less expensive, especially this Mora. You're talking $20 or so when I bought this, $15 to $20. This one's around $100, which I'll go over this knife in a second. But if you're on a budget and you want just a good high quality knife, just go out and buy a Mora, something like this, or a Bushcraft Black is another good one, and just be done with it. They're both excellent knives. They're both robust and durable, and you don't have to worry about spending a lot of money on it. So the last one is an Essie knife. It is the RB3. In my opinion, this is one of the best knives, bar none, on the market, especially for the price. If you want a good bushcraft knife that will last you the rest of your life, that is around $100, I would say go with this knife. The handle is extremely comfortable. It's full tang, 90-degree spine, scandi grind, 1095, Essie's 1095, which is arguably the best in the business. It's just one of my favorite knives that I own, and it's relatively inexpensive. It's around $100. I bought this Kydex sheath so that way I could wear it on my belt horizontal, just to make it more comfortable specifically for me. But if you're on a budget and your budget is somewhere around $100, this is the knife that I would recommend for bushcraft. I wanted to throw in 2 folders. This is the Cold Steel Finwolf. This is like a dedicated folding bushcraft knife made by Cold Steel. This one is an AUS 8, I believe, so it's a stainless steel. It's not a super steel. It's not one of these types of knives that is going to be a really high-end knife. It's relatively inexpensive. I want to say I spent around $20 on $20 or $21 on sale for this knife. It has a 90-degree spine on it, scandi grind, and it uses their ridiculously durable triad locking system, which is probably the strongest folding knife locking system, the mechanism of any knife on the market. I don't personally like stainless steels for the most part, and this is coming from someone who's owned all of the stainless steels. You know, I've owned M390, I've owned 3V, S30, S35V, and I've owned S90. I've owned all of them, and I do like some stainless steels in your folding knives, but generally speaking, I don't like them. Like folding knives for EDC, when I'm out in the woods, I prefer, especially my bushcraft knife, I prefer it to be in a high carbon steel. But if you EDC a knife every day, you know how important the pocket clip is. It's one of the most important pieces of a good pocket knife, is to have a very well thought out, well designed, and robust pocket clip. And I can tell you from someone who's owned a lot of folding knives, a lot of EDC knives in my life, that some higher end companies will have a really good, well-designed knife made out of really high-end materials, and then they'll have a terrible pocket clip. This one has a good one. It doesn't ride. It's not a deep carry, so if that's one of the things that's really important to you, this is not a deep carry, but the pocket clip is really well designed and holds up really well. If you're looking for more traditional, like type of knife, I know that this is not necessarily always seen as a bushcraft folder, but I can tell you, as someone who has owned this knife for probably close to 15 years now, it is excellent for bushcrafting. It's very comfortable, it's robust. This one is in 5160, so it's a high carbon steel, has a nice sharp 90-degree spine on it. This one is not a Scandinavian grind, but it's super duper comfortable, it works really well, and I actually took this with me to Advanced Bushcraft, the Advanced Bushcraft course up in Alabama at Randall's Adventure and Training. So this knife right here has been used quite a bit for that type of fine carving and the types of things that we did at that course, all the different types of friction fires and making different types of tools off the landscape. I use this as one of my 2 knives that I brought with me on my belt, and I have skinned out a lot of animals with this because that's actually what it was designed for. It works really well for that. But one thing I do want to mention really quick about the grind, a scandi grind. A lot of information on the internet say that you should have this type of grind for this type of task, this type of grind for this type of task. I don't necessarily buy into that. I've used scandi grinds for everything from bushcraft all the way, like carving, all the way to butchering animals. And we're not talking about just small animals like squirrels and dove and things like that. I'm talking about, I've butchered wild hogs and deer with my scandi knives, my scandi ground blades. So don't necessarily fall into the mindset that you have to have this type of grind for this type of task, this type of grind. I'm telling you right now, go with a good scandi knife. It doesn't have to be super expensive unless you want to spend that type of money. And I personally prefer a scandi knife in high carbon steel with a good 90-degree spine on it. When I say scandi, I mean a true scandi, not a Scandivex with a 0 ground bevel on it. That's what I personally prefer. So these are some of my favorite bushcraft knives with a couple extras for folders. Why don't you guys go ahead and put down in the comment section what your favorite bushcraft knives are. We can get a discussion going. Like I said, these are my favorite. When I let you guys know some of my criteria for a bushcraft knife, what I like, what I look for, what I like. If you guys are interested in discussion of bushcraft for survival, I have a separate video of that. I'll put it down in the description below. But that's pretty much it for today. Remember to like, subscribe, share these videos with your friends and family. Be safe, stay dangerous, and I'll catch you in the next one.